Hey friend, welcome back to In Her Element. I'm so glad that it's just us today. No guests, no interview, just a heart to heart. And honestly, I love these moments because it feels like we are sitting together over a cup of coffee or chai and talking about the things that really matter. So there's a line that I stumbled upon recently that's been echoing in my head and says that if a woman holds the power to create life, she also holds the power to create the life she wants. Now, the first time I read it, I stopped because I let it sink in. Because I think we forget this truth so easily, don't we? We give and give, we carry responsibilities, we prove ourselves again and again, and somewhere in all of that, we forget that the same strength we use to create for others can also be used to create for ourselves. That our lives aren't just something that happens to us, but something we get to shape. And when I think about my own story, I can see all the times that I forgot that. Growing up in India, no one ever told me that I had permission to want a life that was truly mine. I was told what was respectable, what was safe, and what would make my family proud. And for a long time, I followed it. I became a doctor. I checked all the right boxes. I did what was expected. And yet inside, I was restless. I remember nights where I'd sit alone and think, is this it? Is this all that there is? And it felt like I was walking down a road that looked perfect on paper, but didn't really feel like mine. And maybe you felt that too. When I was reading this quote, that's the reason I wanted to do this solo episode. Because, I feel like all of us have been here at some point in our. That quiet ache of living a story that quite doesn't fit. And for me, the moment that I chose differently was leaving medicine and moving to public health, which, mind you, was terrifying. Terrifying because it was a completely new field in a completely new country. And it also felt like a rebellion, like betrayal, and like, I was letting people down. But I think it was also the first time that I whispered to myself that I get to choose this. I get to create. And I think once you taste that and once you realize it's possible to kind of step off of the path that was laid out for you, I don't think you can unknow it. And that's when you start to see all the other places where you are allowed to choose differently, where you're allowed to breathe life into your own dreams. And I think what I have realized over time is that creating your life just doesn't happen, in those big dramatic moments of change. It can also happen in the most smallest, most ordinary choices. Parts where the ones no one claps for, the ones that don't make it into the headlines of your life, but the ones that actually make you feel alive inside. In short, I think some people call it romanticizing your life, your life. But I think to me, it's just choosing to notice the beauty around you. It's deciding your everyday is worth savoring and not just surviving. But I started buying myself flowers, when no one else would think of it. I started enjoying my morning coffee more slowly, letting it be a ritual and instead of, doing it super rushed. I started lighting a candle while, I began to write or, began to read, which made it nice. On some days, I just decided to dress up and sit for work because why not? Like, it's not like I step outside every day. So I think these things, they may sound very small, but they help you enjoy each and every moment of your life. I think they remind you that you don't have to wait for a milestone to feel alive. That joy isn't something that only belongs to the future. It's also here in these ordinary moments, if you choose to notice it. And I think that's very important, romanticizing life, living it every moment. And along with it, one more thing that I've learned, and I think this one took me years, is that strength doesn't have to mean exhaustion. And I want you all to sit with it for a moment. Because for very long, I thought resilience meant being hard. It meant saying yes to everything, proving myself endlessly, burning out quietly in the corner, and just, giving and giving and giving. But that's not resilience. That's actually self destruction. And the older I get, the more I understand that real strength actually looks very soft. And sometimes that means taking the time to rest. Sometimes that means taking the time to say no to something. And it also looks like choosing peace in a world that glorifies the hustle culture. And now I think my version of strength looks very different than it used to be. Taking these nice early morning walks with my husband where, we talk about nothing and everything under the sun. It looks like laughter with friends after, having a very draining week. And it also looks like shutting off my laptop when my body tells me, that's it, we've had enough, and choosing presence over productivity. And you know what? I think allowing myself to step into that softer way of living didn't make me weaker. It actually made me whole. And it actually meant that I was giving myself priority over other things. Because I think if I'm being honest, one of the hardest lessons of all has been learning to prioritize myself, to actually believe that I deserve to take up space, that my needs and my joy matter too. And I don't think it came very naturally. It came through a lot of heartbreak and loss. And over time, I've lost a lot of close people. And I think it has broken me in ways that I still can't put into words. But more importantly, it also woke me up because it made me realize how unbearably fragile life is. And it hit me that if I keep waiting for the right time, if I keep postponing joy, I will just keep waiting forever. So that's why I began choosing myself in ways that I never used to. I gave time to take therapy. I started to do creative projects that scared me, like starting this podcast, and also rest, even when my to do lists are screaming at me, just taking the time to rest. And most importantly, saying no without an apology and saying it out loud. Because I feel like as women, we deserve joy. We deserve a life that feels good, not just something that looks good to others. And I think that shift changed everything for me. And in that shift, I also found myself reconnecting with a different kind of power. Not the one that comes from pushing hard, but the one that comes from being present and from what I like to call the feminine energy. The slow mornings where I let myself breathe, taking care of myself, being it skincare, fitness, meditation, dancing when no one's watching, dancing to my heart's content. These moments may not look like much from the outside, but I think for me, they feel very sacred because they remind me that I'm just not a PhD student, a researcher, or a list of the responsibilities that I need to check off. I am a woman, I am alive, and that in itself is enough. If you've been waiting for a sign, maybe this is it. You don't need permission. You don't have to earn it. You don't need anyone else's approval. You already hold the power to create the life that you want. And maybe it doesn't have to be some big leap. Just begin with something small. Like, say no to things that drain you. Buy yourself those flowers, or maybe just look into the mirror and whisper that I deserve joy. Because you do, and you always have. So, in this episode, all I wanted to say was bring that part back to yourself and live, love, and romanticize that life, because I don't think, as women, we give ourselves enough credit to live our lives because we're just so busy surviving it on most days. So, thank you for sitting with me today and for letting me share what's been on my heart. And I hope you carry even a little piece of this with you into your week. And until next time, my friend, stay in your element.